the last session, we discussed about digital marketing and how digital marketing tends to be different from traditional marketing. There are certain factors now, students, that one need to understand in order to know what has contributed to this shift from traditional marketing to digital marketing. We have seen that there has been a phase of internet penetration, then internet growth, how web 1.0, then 2.0 and then web 3.0 has brought in certain changes in which in the way in which business and commerce and the various activities over the internet are usually taking place. But at the same time, there are certain factors which have also contributed to this transition or to this shift in a positive manner. Like one, we can say that there has been a power shift from business to consumer. Now, what do we mean by this? The power shift. This is not actually the power in terms of who is bigger and who is is able to dominate. But this power shift is more in terms of wide variety of choices which are now available to consumers. So, initially the businesses used to roll out whatever they wanted to roll out, but now consumers are not satisfied with those limited number of choices, and therefore the businesses have to provide them a wider variety. So much so that in some of the categories you would find that there is a period where a saturation has come, or very soon there will be saturation of key categories. There is also a growing amount of communication, not only in terms of what you communicate, how you communicate and how much you communicate, but also there has been a case of increasing clutter. And in order to get out of this clutter, a shift from traditional or mass forms, it was very much required towards digital platforms which are more customized and personalized in nature. Over the years, we also find, students, that the consumer's preference has shifted towards the interactive mediums, that is from one-way communication and one-way platforms to a more interactive flow of information. Consumers not only prefer this kind of interaction, they also need this kind of interaction because in some of the situations they need to validate whatever they come across. They also need to validate the information, and this validation usually comes when they get recommendation from their trusted groups, or recommendation from influencers, or recommendation from people who are socially active with them or socially interacting with them. There is also a need to compare a lot of things. They also need to be heard, need to be understood, and need to be trusted by the target segment, and for that you have to give time and you have to give a lot of information which is available on the web. When you interact not only with the brand but also with the product through multiple platforms, it opens the avenues for facilitating holistic messaging or holistic marketing activities. Consumers, in a way, we can say, are looking towards a more discovery-led immersive experience, and technology is helping marketeers in order to provide that immersive experience which they are looking forward to, and therefore we say that all what they need is getting fulfilled through the technological intervention or through the technological platforms which are now available to marketeers, and therefore digital marketing is more in sync with what consumers want, and also in sync with their heightened expectations, their need to interact and their need to experience all that which technology along with the marketing activities brings to them. Now, when we move from traditional to digital, we have to look at certain things. Like I told you earlier that in your traditional marketing, one used to focus more, or the marketeers used to focus more on segmentation and targeting. What marketeers need to look in digital marketing? They are not looking at segments, they are not looking at targets, they are looking at customer communities. So, what you see in digital marketing is customer community confirmation. The traditional exercises of segmentation and targeting, they actually exemplify a vertical relationship that used to happen between a brand and its consumers. But they were more or less unilateral decisions which were made by marketeers, that okay, I identify this segment and I want to target this segment on the basis of certain targeting strategies. But they never used to have the consent of their customers whether or not they would like to, the consumers would like to become a part of your brand group, your brand family. But now the things are changing when you move at the digital platforms. When initially marketeers used to function, they used to determine the variables to identify the segments, and the involvement of the customers were used to be very limited to their inputs that they used to make in form of the marketing research activity or a survey, or some of the exercises which would help the marketeer in segmentation and targeting. Now, being targets, consumers used to often feel that they were intruded, and maybe they also felt annoyed by irrelevant messages. Many also considered this one-way communication to be very non-interesting and monotonous. But what is happening in case of digital platforms? You are moving away from segmentation towards community confirmation. So, in digital economy, what is important? Your communities are important, and communities are the new segments. These new segments, they are not identified by the brands, they are not identified by the marketeers, but these are the ones that are naturally formed by the consumers on their own. So, when they interact, they form and they join the groups and the communities. These communities, they are immune to spamming and irrelevant advertising, because this is not what happens to them. You are actually giving them very, very focused information, and the brands also have to seek permission, and therefore permission marketing has become more and more relevant in the times of digital marketing phase. Now, the second thing, students, one can understand that when you move away from traditional towards digital platforms, you are also moving away from brand positioning, brand differentiation, towards something like a brand character, which is much more deeper, which is much more enduring and sustainable in nature. Now, in traditional sense, a brand serves as a reservoir that stores all the value generated by the company's brand campaigns, and you are actually providing an overall consumer experience which a company delivers to its customers. So, brand serves as a platform for a company's strategy, since any activity that the company is engaging in, it will be associated with the brand. So, whatever you do, it will be known by your brand. To establish equity then, if you have to establish a very strong equity, a brand has to have a very clear and consistent positioning. No, you cannot keep on changing your positioning every now and then. It has to be well established, it has to be very, very clear, it has to be very consistent, stable, as well as authentic, in the sense that it should be able to differentiate your offering with that of the competing brand. So, there should be no confusion and there should be no disconnect between your positioning strategy and your positioning statement vis-a-vis the positioning statement of your rival firms, because that is your compelling process, that is the promise that you are making, that marketers have to convey this promise to win the customer's mind and hearts, and to exhibit that yes, the brand is truly in a sense is a grown brand. It has a true brand integrity, and only then it would be able to win the consumer's trust. Marketeers, therefore, students, have to fulfill this promise with a very solid and concrete differentiation through its marketing mix strategy. Now, what happens when you move from this phase of traditional marketing towards digital? Now, in the digital economy, customers are now empowered to evaluate, and not only evaluate, even scrutinize any company's brand positioning promise. Are you really, what you are promising? Are you really, keeping up your promise and, delivering your positioning statement? Therefore, a brand has to be dynamic. He has to be, you have to be strong enough to behave in certain manner so that you can overcome the situations which will be thrown at you, because your macro environment, even your micro environment in some of the cases is pretty turbulent. You don't know what is going to happen. There can be any disruption which can happen, but the brand has to be strong enough, the brand has to be dynamic enough to bounce back, and at the same time be consistent with the promise that it has made through its positioning. What should remain consistent, however, therefore, amidst the turbulence, amidst the changes which are taking place, is the brand character, which should not, deter, which should not change, which should not show any contradiction from what it has promised to its users. Also, we see that the traditional marketing or marketing up till now used to focus on 4 P's in case of goods and 7 P's in case of services. Now, from selling the 4 P's, that is product, price, place and promotion, we are commercializing the 4 C's in digital marketing. And what these 4 C's are? These 4 C's are co-creation, currency, communal activation and conversation. You have to align and design these 4 C's so that they can accommodate most of what you want from your consumers and the way you want consumers to respond to your offerings. Let us see in a greater detail, students, what are these 4 C's that now become the center stage of your digital marketing efforts, or what would constitute the paradigm mix of your digital marketing efforts. First is co-creation. Co-creation along with, I would say, collaboration, which is going to allow the consumers to customize and personalize the product and services. So, you create it together. Consumers and marketeers, they are going to be involved together in the creation of a product or a service, thereby giving rise to more customization and more personalization which can happen. In the process, you would find that there is a greater value proposition. There is a higher value proposition that you roll out, and the customers are viewed as equal because they are also participating, or in some of the cases they are actually collaborating as partners. We also find that from pricing in the traditional marketing, in case of digital marketing, the pricing becomes more dynamic. It is more flexible, right? It is not only based on the market demand and market supply, but it is also based on each and every customer's profile and his and her capacity to pay. So, you make use of big data and analytics, you make use of fine algorithms to find out the pricing or the price which should be charged from each consumer, and that helps the companies to optimize or maximize their profits. The third C, students, in the context of digital marketing is communal activation. What is communal activation. That is, you are changing the concept of channel, right? So you are not just talking about a wholesaler or a retailer or a agent or a trade in between or a distributor. You are talking about more peer to peer distribution. This is the distribution which is taking place. This is a kind of interaction which is happening in case of digital platforms. This is online, peer to peer. So far as conversation, which is the fourth C, is concerned, is fine tuned to this. It is linked to it, that from one sided communication, which was more prevalent and which used to happen in case of traditional marketing efforts, where the information and the communication used to flow one way, one sided. Now you find that it is triadic, that is, it has three parties involved in this conversation process. One is the company or the brand, the second is customers, and third may be complete strangers. So you are tagging your friends, you are posting messages, you are writing reviews, and you may be helping out the person on the web by creating lot of user generated content, maybe for the one whom you do not even know, a complete stranger. So you are this is the level of interaction and this is the level of conversation which is actually happening, which is actually taking place when you talk about digital landscape. Now, when you map it across the value journey, students, we again find a change. Now, initially, when you look at the value chain from the perspective of Derek Rucker, he was from Kellogg's School of Management, and he has given this consumer value journey. And say in case of traditional value journey, you would find that there would be an awareness and then attitude and then action and a repeat action. The consumer is going to learn about the brand, he is going to become aware, and then he is going to form a attitude, which is nothing but a predisposition. You like or you dislike the brand, and on the basis of whether you like or you dislike it, you are going to act. That is, you are going to decide whether you want to purchase it or you do not want to purchase it, and then you will exhibit some sort of loyalty or some sort of a repeat purchase action by acting again and by again and again deciding whether it is worth going for that kind of repeat purchase decision. What is happening in case of digital platforms? So from just this 4A, that is, it is no longer just the awareness or your attitude or your action and then your repeat action, but what is now happening in case of digital platform? The consumer is becoming aware, but it is he or she is becoming aware through the digital platforms. Web is contributing a lot in providing him the information which is going to make the consumers become more aware. And then the consumer is going to go to the next stage, which is not the attitude, but it is going to be the appeal. Appeal to whom? This is it's not that you are going to really file an appeal in the court of law. No, this appeal is that you are going to be influenced by the community. You are going to appeal to the community. Whether that particular product is going to really appeal to you because it is being endorsed by the community or not. You are going to ask the community, the people, the influencers, the peer group who is going to suggest you, and on the basis of that, you are going to form an attitude. So, the attitude is not being developed on your own. The attitude is getting developed by a fine combination of appeal and ask, which is happening in case of digital platforms. Now, once you act, you form, you have gone ahead, you have asked, and now you have made up your decision based on the active interaction, the active connect which happens between the users on the digital platforms. You ask and then they advocate, you act, and then the action doesn't only end on to buying that particular product or using that particular product or accepting that, but you also take it one step ahead in terms of advocating it to others, recommending it to others. So, loyalty, what used to happen in case of traditional marketing, used to go and repeat buy, and that uh, exhibited your loyalty. But here, in case of digital platforms, loyalty is your willingness, how willing you are not only to be buying that particular brand, but also advocating that brand to others. So this is how the value journey, is little different and is more interactive, more experiential, more encompassing, and more inclusive, because you have more and more consumers who are participating and who are interacting, who are talking, who are asking, who are endorsing, who are recommending, validating or advocating, and on the basis of all this, you end up buying something which is more personalized, the experience is more personalized, and the experience is more satisfying also. So we can say that probably through the digital platforms and through digital marketing efforts, you have not only moved from awareness to advocacy, but this awareness and advocacy has brought in the awareness of the role of different factors which are able to exert an influence over this process. And this process, we find that is coming from three different sources. This influence is coming from three different sources. As I said, this is your own self influence, the influence of others, who can be a complete strangers also, and the influence which is completely outer. And we in marketing we say that this is ozone, O, which is the outer influence, and the others influence or your own influence. So this is 3 O's, it becomes O3, so ozone. Now what happens in this own influence? Obviously you can be influenced from within to buy something, which can be the result of maybe your past experience, your interaction with several brands, what you have bought in the past, your own judgment, your own evaluation of the brands. So at the end of the day, students, we all know that ultimately it is your own preference which leads you to buy or choose a particular brand. Often we say that you get swayed. Your own personal preference at times it gets changed because of others, by word of mouth that you come across, or through the advertisement efforts, the media which is in the outer layer. When you talk about others influence, as I said, that can be people from your own social circle, they can be people from from outside your social circle, complete strangers. Typically it is from a close circle of friends, your family, a larger public, external environment. But it can also come from a more broader group, an independent community. So you may be a part of an independent community, and that is from where the others influence is coming from. Maybe you are getting influenced by the conversations that you hear or the messages that you read on your social networking platforms. These messages can be posted or may have been posted by your friends or your family, or maybe by complete strangers, but you get influenced by a broad network or by community that you are a part of. You can also be affected by the ratings that they provide. You can also be affected by any negative word of mouth that they spread. So we say that not all of them are able to exert an influence, some of them are able to exert the influence. Influence of everybody is also not equal. But despite the brand's effort, it is very essential to understand that it is difficult to manage and control the outcome of the influence which is exerted by others. The only way that you can do is, or the only way that a brand would be able to do is, would be through community marketing. companies cannot or brands cannot directly control the conversation which is happening within the community, but they can facilitate the discussion with the help of loyal customers, or they can help you to understand or to get a better perspective with the help of loyal customers. Now comes the third part, which is the outer influence, which we have already talked about, that it comes from the external sources. It is initiated, one can say, by brands through media, through their external marketing communication efforts like advertising. It may also come from other customer interfaces, like there is a sales force and therefore the sales force is able to exert that influence on you, or there is a service staff which is able to exert that influence on you. From a brand standpoint, if we see, students, we find that this outer influence is still manageable. It is still controllable. You can change your advertising strategy, you can change your copy, you can change your message, you can also change the frequency, and you can do something about it. Overall customer touch points can also be designed, although the resulting perception may still keep on changing depending on how satisfying that experience turned out to be for the consumers, but still it is manageable. Now, having a look at, having had the look at these three influences, that is the influence of the self, the influence of others, and the influence of the outer, layer, the outer group, we find that this ozone is really intertwined. They do not operate as autonomous or completely independent of each other. They are, they have a lot of overlap. They have an overlapping influence on each other. It is the outer influence that often reaches the customers first, and then others, and after getting conditioned by these two or after getting influenced by these two, then the consumer finally has to take his own call whether he wants to act in a particular manner or take a particular kind of a decision. Now, if a brand successfully triggers the conversation with the outer influence, because the outer influence, as I said, is going to be the first one to enter the whole thing, then it is going to be followed by the other's influence. So, ultimately it is how you handle the outer influence, the influence which is coming from the outer group and the influence which is coming from your maybe the social group or the peer group or maybe strangers. It is how the way these two sources of influence are going to interact, that is something which will eventually shape your own influence and will give you an insight, will give you an clarity as to what you really want to do. Now, having said that, we say that the consumers in an online medium therefore are not on their own when they are taking part in the marketing activities or when they are being exposed to the marketing activities. They are very comfortable with the medium, and as people become more comfortable with the medium, we know that you use it more efficiently. So, if I am very comfortable online or if I am very comfortable with online shopping, I am going to use this medium more. You do not have to really hang out long, you can do your search very quickly. So, that adds up, even though there is influence which is coming from so many quarters, but that is something which make the whole process very eased out for them. They want it all, they know how to go about it, and how the technology is going to help them in getting best from the marketeers, and in the process it is a win-win situation for the marketeers also, for the reasons and for the features that digital platforms or the technology platforms bring to them in terms of their profit, in terms of their optimization efforts, in terms of their focus, in terms of their sales. So, all in all, students, we have seen how digital marketing is different and what all changes when you move away from traditional marketing towards digital marketing efforts more. I am sure up till now things have been clear to you. Please give it a reading, and in the next session we will take this discussion forward and understand more about the consumer persona or the buyer persona in an online digital marketing landscape. Thank you so much.